Hey, AP World students, welcome in. I'm Missy, the time machine teacher, and tonight we are going to be working on DBQ for Unit 5. So once you get in here, let me know, drop a comment in and let me know that you are here. You know what? I don't think I put, let's see if I put the stuff in the description. I did not. Okay, I'm going to work on that right now and get you the information that you need. Let me put it in the description for you. Let me grab that. So just give me a second. While I'm doing this, go ahead and check out the screen. I have a bunch of videos coming up for you guys. So I want to make sure that you're aware. Hi, Joanne. Nice to see you. I'm dropping the links in the description. Just give me a second. I forgot to do that. I was like all prepared. Oh, we're on YouTube. Okay, hold on. Let me put it in the comments. There is the link for the DBQ coming your way. And then let me grab the link for the organizer. Because you're going to need that one as well. And I forgot to drop it in there for you guys. So sorry about that. Anyway, while you're waiting for me, just go ahead and check all of the stuff coming up. I have it up on the screen for you. There we go. So you have the link for, the first link is the DBQ that we're going to be doing. And then the second link is your DBQ organizer. So you can grab that there. So sorry, I forgot to put it in the descriptions. All right, welcome in, guys. Let me know when you get here. Check out on the screen. I've got several things coming up. Next Tuesday, we're going to be playing Jeopardy at 9:30 a.m. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night, we're going to be looking at our notes and organizing them into one-pagers so that hopefully you can use those for outside evidence, context, and things like that. Friday, we're going to be playing a lunchtime Jeopardy comp if you would like to get in on that. That will be just some stuff that we have missed in the past Jeopardy games because the units have been too big. And then the following Tuesday, we'll be doing DBQ Unit 6. And Wednesday will be last-minute question and answers about the exam. Also, the demo for the exam is live, and I made a quick video about it. So if you need help with walking through it, you can check out that video. Make sure that you do that demo because it will really, really help your anxiety level for the day of the test because you'll know what you're going into. Also, make sure you do it because if your computer is not working or whatever, you'll find out before the day of the exam. So make sure that you do that. And if you would like to sign up for our Remind, this is specifically for YouTube peeps. This, I'll be sending out any reminders that have to do with the Jeopardy games. You can also use it if you play the Jeopardy with us in order to be a part of the wagering process at the end. A one-pager is like a one-sheet page of information that's important about each unit. So what we're going to be doing is just like narrowing down key things that you could use for context, outside evidence, and things like that. That way, when you get onto your test, if you find out that the DBQ is like, say, from 1450 to 1650 or something like that, you can flip to that one pager and get rid of all the other notes, and you'll have like that specific category. So that hopefully you'll be able to use a little bit of that to like prompt you. It's not going to have the exact notes from each unit, of course, because that's too much to look through. It'll just have little tidbits that will like prompt you, oh yeah, that's when the Meiji Restoration happened, or that's when exploration was going on. That way you can use it for context and whatnot. So that's what we'll be doing next week. All right, guys, welcome in. We're gonna get started. This DBQ was a little bit trickier. So I definitely want to look at it and talk about it. There's a lot of options in the way that you could organize your documents. Let me pull up the organizer here real quick. I forgot to put this information in the links below. So I put it over there in the comments for you. If you need the DBQ, go ahead and grab it there. The DBQ organizer is also there as well. So just grab that. All right, so looking at the DBQ, let me pull that up as well. This is Unit 5's DBQ. There we go. Okay, so looking at this, let me see if I can zoom it in a little bit for you. How's everybody doing tonight? I hope you're all doing well. I'm really tired today. I don't know why. Probably because we've been working so hard, right? All right. Let's see. View probably. There we go. No? View, full screen. Where is Zoom? I don't understand why I'm not seeing it. Okay. Well, I guess this will just have to do. Okay. So Unit 5 DBQ, the prompt is using the documents and your knowledge of world history, evaluate the extent to which the roles of women in Japan and Argentina were similar or different in the period of 1850 to 1920. So we have our time period there. That part's definitely important. We also know that we need to do similar or different. Now, if you're going for that unicorn point, you can do one of each or at least one of each. That way you can hopefully get that complexity point. But we definitely need to do at least one or the other. And we're focusing on women of Japan and Argentina. So when you go back here to your organizer, I'm going to put compare in here. And what are we comparing? Women in Japan versus Argentina. And our time frame is 1850s to 1920s. Juan says, hey, Miss Z, I really enjoyed yesterday's Jeopardy game. I was wondering if we could do more often. Yeah, absolutely, Juan. So next week we'll be doing Jeopardy at 9:30 a.m. on Tuesday. And we'll be doing one on Friday at noon. But let me know your schedules. We could try to work another one in there. Maybe we could do it like Mondays or something like that. Just let me know because I've got several of them, and we've actually been playing them every Tuesday. But I can make a couple more because there's some on other units that we didn't cover like all the information, and I think it's really good for outside information, and it is fun. So thanks for that. Sean, hi, how you doing? Good to see you. Sean, I didn't put the documents below. I think you already have them though, but if not, if you need them, they're in the comments. Okay, the other thing that I was going to tell you tonight is that those of you who have been sending me DBQs that you've been practicing, you're really good at the describes part. So I'm going to try to focus more on the supports part and actually pulling out information from the documents tonight. So if there's ever a time that you're like, hey, I really didn't understand the describes part, can you go over that a little bit more in depth? Just let me know because I want to focus more on the supports part for you guys tonight. Okay, but I don't mind like going it over more in depth if you need it. All right, so let's look at our documents and see if we can figure out how to group them. All right. We're looking at Japan versus Argentina. The first document, let's pull it up here. Document 1 by P.F. Siebold, and it's from a book, Manners and Customs of the Japanese in the 19th Century, 1852. The position of women, okay, hold on, I forgot to tell you this. While we're reading this, what I want you to do is underline or highlight, or actually, you won't be able to do that on the actual test. So what I want you to do is have a notebook piece of paper with your DBQ organizer, or just a notebook piece of paper with the documents, and jot down your notes from this. So you're going to jot down describe, support, and explain. That's how you can do it on the day of the test since you can't really annotate your notes. Okay, so let's practice doing that. So document 1 says, the position of women in Japan is apparently unlike that of the sex in all other parts of the East and approaches more nearly their European condition. So right now what he's doing is comparing Japan and European women and saying that they're very similar, okay, in rights. The Japanese women are subjected to no jealous seclusion. They hold a fair station in society and share in all innocent recreations of their fathers and husbands. Now we're looking for things about women during this time period, right, in Japan. So that's a part that you could maybe jot down in the describes. And you're going to put it into your own words because you have to do that in the test anyway. So you could maybe say something like, you know, they hold a fair spot in society, something like that. And you're going to do that as we're reading this. Now, what you're looking for with supports is what can you write down that will support how Japanese women are treated during this time, okay? It says, the minds of women are cultivated with as much care as those of men, and amongst the most admired Japanese historians, moralists, and poets are found several female names. But though permitted thus to enjoy and adorn society, they are, on the other hand, kept in complete dependence on their husbands, sons, or other relatives. They have no legal rights, and their evidence is not admitted in court. At home, the wife is the mistress of the family, but in other respects, she is treated rather as a toy for her husband's amusement than as the rational, confidential partner of his life. So we have a couple of things going on here, right? They are allowed to be educated. You could put that down in describes, but they're still controlled by their husbands and have no legal rights. Also, they are meant to stay home. Their job is at home. So if they're being educated, it's not really so much for a career. It's more about staying home. Now, both of those things can kind of go with describes, like you're describing the main idea, right? So the main idea is that women in Japan have some rights, but their main job is still to be in the home. And then the supports part, that's going to come, whatever is going to support your thesis. Well, we don't know our thesis yet. So when you're going through these documents, what you need to do is just kind of pull some of this information that you think is important, relevant to this topic, right? So what I would do in describes, I'd say something like women, hold on, let me take this off. So this one has to do with Japan. We know we're doing Japanese and Argentina. So Japan, women here have some rights, but still need to be with the family. So that would be like the main idea. All right. Then the supports part, instead of going across like this, I'm going to go down. So this will be describes. And then next will be supports. It's just easier to type it that way. So supports part, you could pull that they are educated, but mainly to stay home with the family, not to have a career. And you might want to say something that like they don't have legal rights. Hi, Wan Ying. Welcome, welcome. So we're just on the first document. You haven't missed much. And I forgot to put the documents in the comments. So, I mean, in the description. So just scroll up in the comments and you'll see the documents as well as the organizer. Okay. You could also pull something out that like she is under the husband's control. So for the supports part, you're pulling stuff out of the document that might be useful to support a thesis, okay? Then explain. This one, we don't really know a lot about the author. Like, is P.F. Siebold Japanese? Probably not, but we don't know for sure. So I am going to say for this one, I'm probably going to skip doing explains for this one because there might be one that is easier down the road. So I'm just going to leave that blank for right now. All right, document 2. Remember, we're looking to compare Japanese and Argentinian women. So you also want to label these documents whether they go for Japan or Argentina. All right, so document 2 is from Baron, I'm not going to pronounce that name, minister in the Japanese government. Okay, so we know this guy is Japanese, and this is from a speech in 1907. And it says, our female education then is based on the assumption that women marry and that its object is to fit girls to become good wives and wise mothers. The house was and still is the unit of society, not the individual, the object of female education. In a word, to fit girls to become good mothers, proper helpmeets, and worthy companions of the men of the Meji, and noble mothers to bring up future generations. All right, so that one's pretty clear what he thinks about women, right? The describes part, women's place would be in the home. And that they are educating them to stay in the home and be better mothers. And what can we pull from that to prove that? Well, we can use that last part that says about girls need to become good mothers, good helpmeets to their husbands, like a good partner, and worthy companions, noble mothers to raise up future generations. So you could say something like, and according to this document, education of women, the purpose. Forgot to put that in there. The purpose of educating young women is so that they become good mothers and can help their husbands by raising the next generation. And then the fact that he put something in there about like companions of the Meji, you know that it's kind of like referring to the time period when the Meji restoration was happening and industrialization was happening, right? So you can say something like he refers to the men of the Meji, which shows this is the time of modernization. So, therefore, this is what he must think the modern woman is, right? So, can you see the difference between describe and support? Support is difficult because you're pulling something from the document that you can reword to prove a thesis. But the biggest problem is we don't know what the thesis is yet, right? Because we haven't read all the documents. So you're just going to pull like the best stuff from that document and put it into your own words. And then that will kind of curve around your thesis. That will kind of like make your thesis, so to speak. Does anybody have questions about that? Let me know if that doesn't make sense. Okay, and then explaining this one would be a little bit easier because it does talk about this is a speech. He's Japanese. He's probably grown up with these kind of ideas. Let me see. I think I wrote it. Okay, yeah. So for this one, you could probably do point of view or audience. The thing is, though, with audience, we don't really know exactly who his audience is to. Probably something with the government, right? Because he's a minister of the government. So you could say that, but we could also do point of view. That's the one that I'm choosing. So point of view, who is the author? What do they believe? And why do they believe it? So the author is male Japanese government minister. He believes a woman's place is in the home. Now, don't stop there. Why does he believe that? Okay, that's the important part. And you could say something like, because he is male, he was probably raised to believe he was superior to women and that a woman's role is to take care of the family. Oops, can't spell. Okay, something like that. You could maybe talk about the fact that he's in government. That might affect his point of view. Oh, you could also say he believes that women are not equal to men. If you want to reword it a little bit, that would be fine too. Juan says, can that be outside evidence? Yeah, you could put something about the Meiji restoration in here as outside evidence. I'm going to make a note of that. That would be good. Because the document doesn't really go into talking about it much, right? If he would talk about the Meiji restoration and talk about what it actually is and what was going on at that time frame, then it wouldn't count as outside evidence because then it would be within the document. But since he doesn't really talk about that, then yes, that would be absolutely acceptable for outside evidence. Good job, Juan. All right, so that's what's going on with document 1 and 2. Okay, I'm going to keep that kind of up here just in case you guys need it still. Let's look at document 3. I'm going to try to let you guys participate a little bit more. It's kind of hard because of the lag time with YouTube, and I don't want to take too long to go over this, but I do want to hear some of the things that you have to say and some of the thoughts that you have. So if there's anything that I'm not picking out of the documents that you think is important, definitely drop it in the comments and we'll talk about it, because this is totally subjective. It really, really is. Joam says, can I say women should be subservient to her husband? Yeah. If you're talking about like a point of view or in supports, yeah, it basically means the same thing. The most important thing to do in supports is to reword it. You don't want to exactly quote the document, because if you don't reword it, then the reader doesn't know if you understand the document or not. So by rewording it, it shows that you understand what the document's talking about. All right, so let's look at document 3. Document 3 are 2 graphs, and this was actually 2 different documents in the actual DBQ that I'm using, but I combined them together because we have that limit of 5 documents to practice for the test, and I felt like you needed both of them. So just so you know, if you have a graph on the AP exam, there probably will only be one of them, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, so this one is, the first one is the enrollment in Argentinian schools. And you have all the years over here, total number of boys, total number of girls, and total number of students. And then down here you have the enrollment of Japanese kids, number of schools, percentage enrolled, and total percentage of kids enrolled. So take a minute to look at that and see how you would describe it. What is the main idea going on here in this document? Juan says in document 1, we can relate it to Muslim women for outside evidence. Sure, yeah, you could. Remind me of that when we get to outside evidence, and we'll definitely talk about that a little bit more. So what are you seeing happening in these charts? Let's look at Argentina first. Argentina is definitely more boys are being educated than girls, but the girls being educated is increasing as time goes by, right? Same thing here with Japan. The percentage of girls is increasing a lot, quite a bit, actually, quite a bit. Wang Ying says the graph shows that more males enroll in school than females. Okay, it absolutely shows that too. More males are being educated than girls. However, the education of girls is increasing. So I would use that for your description. More males are being educated than girls, or enrolled in school, either one. However, education for girls is continuing to increase. Graham says the graph shows in 1800s boys getting educated more than girls. Is that what you're trying to say? I'm not sure. I think that's what you're trying to say. That's right. Okay, now we're looking for something to support. So what could we pull from this that could potentially support how women are being treated during this time frame? Think about that and drop it in the comments. Okay, that's what I thought you meant, Joanne. What could we say about women's treatment with this? Now, the other two documents have kind of hinted at education, right? They've said that education is important with the Japanese. This one also includes Argentina, though. So what could we say? Would this be a similarity? Could be, right? So you could say that similarly, is that a word? Similarly? Yep, I got to spell it right. There we go. Similarity. Yeah, so you're right, Joanne. The graph shows that girls' education percent is lower than boys. That's true, but it is increasing as time goes on, right? So we could say that similarly in both of these places, girls' access to education is increasing. Now, if I do that for my support, I might pull some numbers out when I'm actually writing about this and say something like from 1896 to 1915 in Argentina, that jumped, do the math on that, from 130,000 to 450,000 who were enrolled in school. And in Japan, in 1873 to 1900, it jumped from 15% to 72%. Okay, you're going to want to pull something from that document in order to prove that. So I'm going to put down, pull the numbers from the graphs. So when you're actually writing it, make sure that you do that. If it's a graph or a picture, you have to make sure that you pull something from that, okay? Wan Ying says they are similar because both of the female education rate is increasing. Yeah, absolutely. Juan says women education is starting to increase overall. All that is fantastic. Just make sure that you reference the number in the graph. So after you say that, give an example of what you're talking about, and then that would tie it to the document as well as support. Very good. Okay, you guys are getting this. I'm so proud of y'all. I am so proud of y'all. Really. I mean, this is difficult stuff. This is stuff that historians do. So you are basically becoming a historian. Imagine that. All right. So explaining this, once again, we don't really know a lot about this document, so I'm going to skip that one for now. And if we have to go back, let's see, we've got one. We've only got one explained so far, so we might have to go back to it, but we'll see. All right, so let's go to document 4. Document 4 is from a lady named Josefina, and this one is going to be about Argentina. So we have some Argentinian documents coming up, which is good because we needed some of those. So she says this is a response, or it's to the women dedicated to Miss Maria Eugenia. Okay, the next document that we're going to have is written by that woman. So in this one, audience would be really easy to do because we know who she's writing it to, right? So I would put audience out to the side by this document wherever you're writing stuff, so you remember that we can do audience for this one. Okay, before we go on, Juan says, Miss, I got a 9 out of 10 for Unit 4, thanks to you. Awesome. That's great, Juan. I am so glad. I'm so glad. I miss being in the classroom so much, and this is a poor comparison to that because I miss seeing y'all's faces and like the interaction, but I'm so glad that I can be helpful even from afar. So that's awesome. And Wan Ying, ever the cheerleader. Wan Ying's the best. You guys, Wan Ying's just so awesome. I love her. She goes to West Side. She's not in my class officially, but I'm adopting you, Wan Ying, because you're awesome. I'm adopting all of you because you're awesome. You're all my students. Okay. Get me off track. All right, let's go. Document 4. Women should be educated. Give them a solid education based on wholesome principles, cemented with moral, sensible beliefs. They should have a general knowledge of everything that awakens ingenuity and determines ideas. But not for them are the calculations and egotism with which they instruct English women. Not for them the ridiculous ideas of North American women who pretend in their pride to be equal to men. Okay? Wow, these are some strong words right here. To be legislators and obtain a seat in Congress or be university professors as a woman were not enough to be happy and to make others happy, as if it were not enough to carry out her sacred mission on earth. Educating her family, cultivating the tender hearts of her children, making them useful citizens, laborers of intelligence and progress with her words and acts, cultivating love in her children and the sentiments that most enhance women, virtue, modesty, and humility. Okay, so that one's really powerful, right? She's talking in very strong language. We can definitely see her point of view as well as the audience. So those could be 2 explains that we could do, but we're not there yet. So describing this document. How would you describe this document? This is the easy part. Describing this document, main idea, right? Basically, she believes women should be educated, but not equal to men. So why should they be educated? What's the purpose? For their children, right? And to raise those children, but that they are not equal to men. Ooh, that one sounds a lot like the Japanese guy, right? It also sounds a little bit like what was going on in our first document. So we might be able to put those together. Now, what can you pull from this to support that? She gives us a ton of stuff, right? She says that they should not believe in the ridiculous ideas of the English women and North American women. Yes, Wan Ying, to raise their next generation with education. Exactly. So once again, women should be educated not to have a career, but to raise the family. So very good. So you can pull anything, a lot of this from supports, basically like that they shouldn't follow the ideas of westernized countries, such as England and North America. That their education should raise up the next generation to make them better citizens. And I'm just pulling this kind of at random from that bottom part where she really goes after it. And she says they should cultivate love. So making their children better citizens, growing them up with love and good character. All right, so that last part where she says cultivating the love in their children, that's one that I reworded. And then the other part that talks about virtue, modesty, and humility, that's the good character part. So you're pulling that from the document and then just putting it in your own words. Juan says, can outside evidence be Olympe de Gorge in America? Yeah, that could work. Absolutely. I'm going to put that down as a possibility. And you could also do like in the 1920s, the voting rights, stuff like that. We can talk about that. All right, now for explain, we could do point of view or we could do audience here. Let's see. One thing that I did find out about her is that she is, of course, against all of this reform to women's rights. You can tell that, obviously. So her audience. So let's do audience first for her. Her audience is Maria, and I'm not going to spell that out. That's her last name, and her followers. So Maria, we can assume, is probably going to be a reformer, right? Because this lady is against her. So when we read her document, we'll see that. But for audience, you need to say what she believes and why or how that impacts the document. So she believes women should be educated, but not to have a career. Why does she believe that? Or how does this affect the document, right? Wait, we didn't say the audience. Oh, sorry, I think I was doing point of view. So for point of view, for audience, oh my goodness, we need to say that her audience is Maria E.E. and her followers, okay? This affects the document because since she is against reform, she strongly speaks against it. To get her point across as to why Maria is wrong. If I could type, that would be great. There we go. You could say something about how she speaks in a very forceful tone about it. That could work as well. Just make sure that when you're doing audience, point of view, purpose, any of those, that you talk about why that's important. I'm going to put out a video sometime next week to talk a little bit more about the different questions that you can ask yourself for each one. So look out for that one. It'll be coming. Okay. Any questions about that document? So we could possibly throw this with one of the other ones that we had from Japan that's kind of talking about the same thing. We'll see. We have one more document to look at. All right, document 5. This one is from Maria, and it's in response to Josephina. So we know her audience is Josephina. But we're probably not going to want to do audience again because it's going to be very similar to the audience of the last one. Wan Ying says, I'm having a DBQ practice these 2 days. Can you look over mine and go over some errors? Yeah, absolutely. Just email them over to me and I will look at them. You can put them in a Google Doc if you want or a Word document, and then I'll just add the comments in. That's what I've been doing for the kiddos that have sent them to me. So absolutely. I'd love to help. Hi, Annie. This unit, DBQ, is for a grade for our class. Yes, ma'am. It is. Okay. And if you need the documents, I forgot to put them in the description part. So just scroll all the way up in the comments and you'll see the documents and the DBQ organizer. Okay. Document 5, Maria Eugenia, and she's responding to Josephina. So let's look at this one. Every day we see men with unscrewed on heads who have no love for order, not true affection for their families. They spend their lives on gambling and rambling around. Cold-bloodedly, they leave their children on the streets because of their wives whose sphere of action is reduced only to love and suffering, not know how to oppose forcefully the squandering, nor how to stop in time the abuses from their husband, nor save in this way the interest of their children. So this is the other side of the argument, right? Then she says, emancipation protects women from this catastrophe. A woman educated in the management of business, even if she does not make a profession of it, knows how to prevent or remedy the problem once it has occurred. She does not go through the pain of seeing her children begging for bread from door to door because she has a thorough and resources to satisfy their needs honorably. Emancipation, conceding to women's great rights, instills in them a great heart that takes them closer to the true perfection to which men can aspire here on earth. A woman who to her physical beauty and spirituality adds education and the ability to act for good in her vast sphere is the ideal type imagined by Christianity, and she is going to carry out the progress in this century. Okay, so she is saying the opposite of what Josephina said, right? And she says basically that women need to be educated and have freedom and rights so that they can take care of their families if their husband's a loser. Basically, that's what she's saying. So women need rights in order to protect their families if they don't have a good husband. That would be how I would describe that. Wang Ying, let me drop my email in here for you. There you go, kiddo. Okay. Then we need something to support it, right? Why is she saying that women need to have these rights and need to have the education? So she's saying that it protects women and gives them a way to honorably provide for their families if they have to provide. It's also Christian. She pulls that in at the very end, and she says a woman whose physical beauty and spirituality adds education and ability to act for good is the ideal imagined Christian, right? And she's going to progress in this century. So you can pull any of that stuff. You could say something like freedom of women gives them the ability to provide for their family. According to the document, giving women rights adds to their physical beauty. You in there. And is the Christian the ideal Christian woman? Something like that. What else could we? Let's see. She would have resources, even if she doesn't make a career of her education. So basically, she's saying a woman doesn't have to choose between being a mother and being educated. Because that will give her options. Okay, so for this one, you could do her point of view. You could do audience. Once again, it would be very similar audience to Josephina. So I would maybe do point of view, and you could say she is a woman reformer. She believes women should have rights. And she believes this because she is a woman who wants to have rights in order to have options. The way that she talks about this is that possibly she has seen or maybe been in this situation where women haven't had options. So you can say that she strongly speaks from the point of view possibly experiencing when women don't have choices. And how they can't provide for their family. That answers the question, what they believe and why she believes it. Okay, now we need to look back through the documents and figure out how we are going to group these things. So you have similarities and you have differences. You can do one or the other. You can do both. You might want to do both, right? Because that could potentially get you the complexity point. I had a really hard time getting these into 2 groups. So I put them into 3 groups. Look at the documents. I'm going to give you a couple minutes to kind of look at the documents and see what you guys think. I think if Shun is still listening, I think you put it into 2 groups, right, Shun? Let me know if you did. But I'd like to know, okay, what you guys are thinking. So Joam says 1 and 4 are similar. Okay. So 1 and 4, let me look back. Okay, yeah. So this one was the Josephina one. And okay. So what similarity would you pull out of that one? How would you group those 2 together? Let me know what you think. Yeah, I think Shun left too. That's okay. Maybe she'll come back. It's breakfast over there right now in China, so maybe Shun went back to bed. I wouldn't blame Shun for sure for going back to bed. I'm ready to go to bed now. It's only 7:47. All right, so similarity-wise, Joam, what would you put these 2 as similar? Maybe the similar of the fact that women should be educated but yet stay at home. Yeah, it is definitely early over there, Wenying. Could maybe go with that. So Joam says both are about women should be educated but not as much as men. Okay, so not as equal as men. Okay. Juan says 1 and 4, women should have rights, but they should not be equal to men. Okay, that could work. What about 2? Could you put 2 with that as well? Because that kind of says the same thing. Then we would have 3 documents in that group. What could you use for a difference? Let me tell you how I thought that I might put them. Oh, hold on just a second. 1, 2, and 4 is a group. Okay, so yeah, you could put 1, 2, and 4 together. I was also thinking of 3 groups, and the groups that I was thinking about doing was document number 3. This one proves that women both gain greater access to education. Okay, so that could be all on its own. Remember, you don't need a certain number of documents in each group. Okay, that's not a thing anymore. So you can do as many as you want. I was just trying to get it so that it would be 2 groups. That way you'd only have to write 2 paragraphs. But I couldn't find that way. Then I was going to put 2, this one, 2, and 4 together and say that that showed a similarity that in both places, industrialization led to more girls being educated, but they were being educated in order to become better wives and mothers, not to actually have a career. So that's what I was thinking for that group. And then I was going to put 1 and 5 together for a difference and say that there's evidence in Argentina that some supported equal rights for women, but on the other hand, in Japan, education was still to keep women at home and be subject to their husbands. So that's kind of what I was thinking. And then you could get the, both the similarities and differences in there. Now, all the things that you guys have talked about so far are all fine. So like Juan was saying, he would use 5 and 3 for the difference. Sure, that works too, because that document 3 is basically saying the same thing as document 1. So you could absolutely group them like that. However you want to group them would be fine. And then maybe just put document 3 as its own group. So for my thesis, this is what I was thinking. I would say something like the extent to which the roles of women in Japan and Argentina are similar is greater, oh my goodness, can't spell, greater than the extent in which they are different. You want to try to use the wording of the prompt a little bit in your thesis. So that's why I was putting that in there. And then I'm going to say Japan and Argentina were similar in that women in both places gained more access to education, you also want to try to throw in the time frame into your thesis. So that's why I'm putting that in there. However, despite this, women in both places were not educated with the intent that they would be equal to men. Then I'm going to put my difference in there, and I'm going to say that there is evidence that there was some support for the rights of women in Argentina that could lead to emancipation. In contrast, that shows difference. Japanese women could be educated, but would still remain in her role in the home and subject to her husband's wishes. Now, this is a lot longer thesis than what we have been writing, but these documents call for that. So don't think that, oh, because I had to write, 3 or 4 sentences, I'm not going to get the thesis point. Make sure that you have each part of what you're going to talk about. And then this basically breaks down into my topic sentences, right? So this could be one topic sentence. This could be my other topic sentence. And this is my difference topic sentence. So now I have all 3 topic sentences, and I can start writing my paragraphs. Let's talk about context for a bit. So what is the context of the 1850s? Well, do women have the right to vote at this time? No. So even though it's saying in the documents that women in Europe and North America have more rights, they still are not like on the same playing field as men. So you could say something like, in the early 1900s, women start fighting harder for the right to vote. So you could talk about the suffrage movement. This starts in Europe, and then it's going to spread to North America. You could mention Mary Wollstonecraft. This is how you spell her name. We talked about during the Enlightenment, remember? So she wrote about women's rights during the Enlightenment in the 1700s. So to transition between these two, I might say that like the suffrage movement starts in the 1900s. However, the fight or women's rights started much earlier than that. Something like that. And then go in to start talking about Mary. You could also talk about, remember Abigail Adams told John Adams, remember the ladies? She said this because he was going to, you know, fight in the American Revolution and write these documents and try to make new laws. And she's saying, listen, don't forget about the women. We need our rights too. He did forget about the women, but at least she said it. And then you could talk more about the women's suffrage movement, some ladies that are involved in that. You could talk about Elizabeth Cady Stanton. You could talk about Susan B. Anthony. And if none of this is sounding familiar to you, just look up some information about the women's suffrage and movement and review this, because you definitely might see something about women on the DBQ. We just never know. And then you need to tie it somehow to your thesis. So I would say something like, at this time, the expectation for women throughout the world was one in which women's place was at the home and that it should remain there. Okay, so like this was a common idea throughout the world. But then you could say, you know, despite this, many places did offer education to young girls and would eventually allow the vote in the early 1900s. Japan and Argentina were behind the Western world in this category, though. So you could say something like that. So let me write that. Somehow you have to tie this in to your thesis. Oops. So that's what this sentence does. Then after you have that done, you can go into your thesis. So I would write this thesis after context, or you could put it before. It really doesn't matter. You can put thesis first and then context. That's up to you. Any questions about context or thesis for this one? Then you're going to go into your topic sentences. Now, if you group them like I did, where we put the graphs separate, then you might put that at the very, you know, the very beginning. Topic sentence would be women in both areas. I would say women in Japan and Argentina. Make sure and name those places. Both gained access to education, and then you would describe the document, how we did it here. Let's see, what document was that? That was document 3. So we would describe it, and then we would quote or pull some, don't quote, sorry. We would pull some numbers from the graph, okay, to support that. And then we're not explaining that one because it's hard to explain. So then, however you group the next 2 documents, I used 2 and 4. I think some of you used a couple of different ones. That part doesn't really matter, but make sure that you have your topic sentence. Then you would do the describes part. You would do the supports part. Use what you've written down on your DBQ organizer. That way you don't have to reread the document again, right? And then your point of view, we talk about the Meji restoration to get our outside evidence in there. Then we go to document 4, describe, supports, outside evidence, audience, all that could go in there really quick. So you see that if your DBQ organizer is done well, then your DBQ is pretty much already written. By the time you get the DBQ organizer done, you've got the information, you just have to put it in there. And then document 1, so then we put our next topic sentence. We would describe and support our document 1, describe and support document 5, put in our explain, and make sure you have 2 outside evidences. I think we had 2 outside evidences. More outside evidence that you could talk about is how women in Japan and Argentina, they were working outside the home at this time, but most of them that were doing that were getting very low pay. So you could say, like, in Japan, they were working in the textile industry. In Argentina, they had a variety of professions, but all of them were low pay. And by textile industry, it was mostly like the silk industry and the mills. You could also pull it into how in World War I and World War II, women start taking the roles of men as the men are leaving to go to war. You could talk about that as well. That could work for outside evidence. You could also maybe swing that in context, but we had plenty of stuff for context, so you wouldn't really have to worry about that. And that would pretty much wrap it up. Now, if you are running out of time, what I would suggest that you do today when I was looking at the demo, if you do it in a document like this, then all you're doing is copying and pasting it over. So if I'm running out of time, I don't have enough time left to finish. Let's say I've only got 10 minutes left and I know that it's going to take me a little while to submit it. Just copy and paste the DBQ organizer and maybe you'll get some points from the describing of each one of these documents or the supporting. I mean, you never know. They might be able to give you some of that. Now, hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully you're able to write it out into sentence form, but just in case, that could be an idea. Now, what I would also suggest that you do, if you end up copying and pasting some of that in there from your DBQ organizer, is instead of putting like OE for outside evidence, actually write out outside evidence and then type some in about the Meshi restoration. You know, like they're not just going to give you the outside evidence point for Meshi restoration, but they might give it to you if you have more information about that. Okay. So those are some options. Make sure that you do the AP demo. I just put out a video earlier today where I'm kind of walking you through it. You can watch that if you want before you actually go and do it yourself. But make sure that you absolutely do that because it will let you know if your computer is working right for that day. All right, guys, that is it for this DBQ. Let me know if you have any last minute questions on this before we go. And if not, let me show you real quick the schedule for next week. I have a lot of stuff coming up, so don't miss it because it's going to be fun. We're going to play Jeopardy Tuesday, so Juan, make sure and keep track of that so that you can be in there. Remember, these are all central time zones, so if you guys are in a different time zone, just adjust for that. So that's what's going on, and thank you so much for joining in tonight. I hope this was super helpful. We will be doing Unit 6, but not until May 20th. No, May 19th. So we're taking a little bit of a DBQ break. Oh, I'm not even showing you guys the screen. Hold on just a second. There we go. I think Wan Ying was the only one who didn't see it. So there you go, Wan Ying. Oh, thank you, Wan Ying. I appreciate that. My dad built those bookshelves for me behind me. We did that last summer, and I just love them. They're my favorite thing. Joam says, can the contextualization be after the time period? Yeah, it can be after the time period. So that's why I was saying you could always talk about like how women went to work in World War I and World War II, and they started taking on different roles. But the biggest problem would probably be that you guys haven't done World War I and World War II yet, although you might know it from your own studies. Juan, yes, I have a lot of books. I love my books, but I use them. I use them to teach you guys. So that's why I have them. And I definitely have not been bored during this quarantine because I've had plenty of books to read, but I've been so busy that I haven't really been able to do it. And I love sea turtles. Did you see the baby? Hold on, I got to show you the baby. There's the baby. Can you see him? There he is right there. Isn't he cute? I love sea turtles. I got to swim with one in Hawaii for like 2 hours once, and it was amazing. If you ever get to swim with sea turtles, do it. They're just the coolest creature ever. They're so cool. Shun is going to have to stay up from 2 at midnight to take the AP exam. Oh, you know what? I wonder, Wan Ying, if they're doing it differently for other countries because that when we registered, I'm going to be reading the AP exam this year and helping grade. So when we registered for that, they said that if you're outside of the country, they might be adjusting the time frame. So that's a possibility. Hopefully that's the case. Oh, and did you guys see this over here? I have a watering can lamp. I got to show you this real quick. My dad made me this. It's a watering can. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's super fun. Yeah, I guess you can kind of see it. The part that has the little light shining out of it is like a little night light. Juan, you can't swim? Oh no, you've got to learn how to swim, because swimming with sea turtles is like the coolest thing. Snorkeling in general is just really cool. And actually, you wouldn't have to know how to swim super well, because you wear, it's called a BC, and it's like a little life vest. So you wouldn't have to know how to swim a lot, but you definitely know how to swim a little bit. All right, guys, thank you again for tuning in. I definitely appreciate it, and I'm hoping that this will be helpful for you all. We only have like 2 weeks. Why do you don't know how to swim either? Guys, come on. Well, at least now you know your summer goals. Find a swimming pool, learn how to swim. Wan Ying, you can come over. I'll teach you at our, I got a swimming pool right down the way. I'll teach you how to swim. Juan says, we need a video on how to make all this stuff. Oh, that would be fun. Yeah, you know what? That watering can lamp would be a good video. I'd have to employ my dad to make another one, though, because I do not know how he did it. He's amazing. But I definitely want to make some more like crafty videos, because I love to make stuff. So keep an eye out. I just have been so busy with AP World, I haven't had time. Wan Ying says, oh no. Come on, Wan Ying. Where's your bravery? You know, I used to be really afraid of the water when I was little too, and I just loved like the idea of snorkeling so much that I had to get over that, and I'm really glad that I did, because it's an awesome experience. So definitely you guys need to do that. All right, guys, I am logging out of here. Joanne, you are so welcome. I really miss you guys. Like, I was thinking about it today, and I thought, man, I hope we can go back to school in the fall, because you guys give teachers a reason to be. And I just love you guys so, so much that this has been extremely hard for me, because I just want to see your faces. So I really appreciate that you tune in for these. And good night, Wan Ying. Enjoy the rest of your night as well. I'll talk to you guys later.